Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. We have an unusually different Neville Goddard episode today. This is from a lecture that the date is unknown on, as far as I could research it. It is not really a lecture, definitely not like any of the other lectures, because he's really only talking about one topic. He does not mention David, and it's called the 12 Disciples. It's a very good analysis of each of the disciples as qualities or potentials in the human mind, and how they each, when accessed, can allow you to become the Christ. And he goes through each of the disciples, and I've looked for this. It's cool that I found it. There is obviously something to Neville's teaching that the Bible is about you, and the characters in the Bible are states. When you take it from this perspective, each of the disciples were a little bit different, and there was something unique about them. And perhaps the writer used these intentionally as the 12 different potentials within man. The number 12 is important in a lot of different literature, and it's interesting for him to discuss it from his perspective. The 12 disciples, the date unknown. And when he had called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits, to cast them out, and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Matthew 10:1. The 12 disciples represent the 12 qualities of mind, which can be controlled and disciplined by man. If disciplined, they will at all times obey the command of the one who has disciplined them. These 12 qualities in man are potentials of every mind. Undisciplined, their actions resemble more the actions of a mob than they do of a trained and disciplined army. All the storms and confusions that engulf man can be traced directly to these 12 ill-related characteristics of the human mind in its present slumbering state. Until they are awakened and disciplined, they will permit every rumor and sensuous emotion to move them. When these 12 are disciplined and brought under control, the one who accomplishes this control will say to them, "Hereafter I call you not slaves, but friends." He knows that from that moment on, each acquired disciplined attribute of mind will befriend and protect him. The names of the 12 qualities reveal their natures. These names are not given to them until they are called to discipleship. They are Simon, who was later surnamed Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas. The first quality to be called and disciplined is Simon, or the attribute of hearing. This faculty, when lifted to the level of a disciple, permits only such impressions to reach consciousness as those which his hearing has commanded him to let enter. No matter what the wisdom of man might suggest, or the evidence of his senses convey, if such suggestions and ideas are not in keeping with that which he hears, he remains unmoved. This one has been instructed by his Lord and made to understand that every suggestion he permits to pass his gate will, on reaching his Lord and Master, his consciousness, leave its impression there, which impression must in time become an expression. The instruction to Simon is that he should permit only dignified and honorable visitors or impressions to enter the house, consciousness of his Lord. No mistake can be covered up or hidden from his Master, for every expression of life tells his Lord whom he consciously or unconsciously entertained. When Simon by his works proves himself to be a true and faithful disciple, then he receives the surname of Peter, or the Rock, the unmoved disciple, the one who cannot be bribed or coerced by any visitor. He is called by his Lord Simon Peter, the one who faithfully hears the commands of his Lord, and besides which commands he hears not. It is this Simon Peter who discovers the I Am to be Christ, and for his discovery is given the keys to heaven, and is made the foundation stone upon which the temple of God rests. Buildings must have firm foundations, and only the disciplined hearing can, on learning that I am is Christ, remain firm and unmoved in the knowledge that I am Christ, and beside me there is no Savior. The second quality to be called to discipleship is Andrew, or courage. As the first quality, faith in oneself, is developed, it automatically calls into being its brother, courage. Faith in oneself, which asks no man help, but quietly and alone appropriates the consciousness of the quality desired, and in spite of reason or the evidence of his senses to the contrary, continues faithful, patiently waiting in the knowledge that his unseen claim, if sustained, must be realized. Such faith develops a courage and strength of character that are beyond the wildest dreams of the undisciplined man whose faith is in things seen. The faith of the undisciplined man cannot really be called faith, for if the armies, medicines, or wisdom of man in which his faith is placed be taken from him, his faith and courage go with it. But from the disciplined one the whole world could be taken, and yet he would remain faithful in the knowledge that the state of consciousness in which he abides must in due season embody itself. This courage is Peter's brother Andrew, the disciple who knows what it is to dare and to do and to be silent. The next two who are called are also related. These are the brothers James and John. James the just, the righteous judge, and his brother John, the beloved justice. To be wise must be administered with love, ever turning the other cheek, and at all times returning good for evil, love for hate, non-violence for violence. The disciple, James, a symbol of a disciplined judgment, must, when raised to the high office of a supreme judge, be blindfolded, that he may not be influenced by the flesh, nor judge after the appearances of being. Disciplined judgment is administered by one who is not influenced by appearances. The one who has called these brothers to discipleship continues faithful to his command, to hear only that which he has been commanded to hear, namely, the good. The man who has this quality of his mind disciplined is incapable of hearing and accepting as true anything, either of himself or another, which does not, on the hearing, fill his heart with love. These two disciples, or aspects of the mind, are one and inseparable when awakened. Such a disciplined one forgives all men for being that which they are. He knows as a wise judge that every man perfectly expresses that which he is, as man, conscious of being. He knows that upon the changeless foundation of consciousness, all manifestation rests, that changes of expression can be brought about only through the changes of consciousness. With neither condemnation nor criticism, these disciplined qualities of the mind permit everyone to be that which he is. However, although allowing this perfect freedom of choice to all, they are nevertheless ever watchful to see that they themselves prophesy and do both for others and themselves only such things which, when expressed, glorify, dignify, and give joy to the expressor. The fifth quality called to discipleship is Philip. This one asks to be shown the Father. The awakened man knows that the Father is the state of consciousness in which man dwells, and that this state, or Father, can be seen only as it is expressed. He knows himself to be the perfect likeness or image of that consciousness with which he is identified. So he declares, "No man has at any time seen my Father, but I, the Son, who dwelleth in his bosom, have revealed him. Therefore, when you see me, the Son, you see my Father, for I come to bear witness of my Father. I and my Father, consciousness and its expression, God and man, are one." This aspect of the mind, when disciplined, persists until ideas, ambitions, and desires become embodied realities. This quality which states, "Yet in my flesh shall I see God." It knows how to make the word flesh, how to give form to the formless. The sixth disciple is called Bartholomew. This quality is the imaginative faculty, which quality of the mind, when once awake, distinguishes one from the masses. An awakened imagination places the one so awakened head and shoulders above the average man, giving him the appearance of a beacon of light in a world of darkness. No quality so separates man from man as does the disciplined imagination. This eye is the separation of the wheat from the chaff. Those who have given most to society are our artists, scientists, inventors, and others with vivid imaginations. Should a survey be made to determine the reason why so many seemingly educated men and women fail in their after-college years, or should it be made to determine the reason for the different earning powers of the masses, there would be no doubt but that imagination played the important part. Such a survey would show that it is imagination which makes one a leader, while the lack of it makes one a follower. Instead of developing the imagination of man, our educational system oftentimes stifles it by attempting to put into the mind of man the wisdom he seeks. It forces him to memorize a number of textbooks, which all too soon are disproved by later textbooks. Education is not accomplished by putting something into man. Its purpose is to draw out of man the wisdom which is latent within him. May the reader call Bartholomew to discipleship, for only as this quality is raised to discipleship will you have the capacity to conceive ideas that will lift you beyond the limitations of man. The seventh is called Thomas. This disciplined quality doubts or denies every rumor and suggestion that are not in harmony with that which Simon Peter has been commanded to let enter. The man who is conscious of being healthy, not because of inherited health, diets, or climate, but because he is awakened and knows the state of consciousness in which he lives, will, in spite of the conditions of the world, continue to express health. He could hear through the press, radio, and wise men of the world that a plague was sweeping the earth, and yet he would remain unmoved and unimpressed. Thomas the doubter, when disciplined, would deny that sickness or anything else which is not in sympathy with the consciousness to which he belonged had any power to affect him. This quality of denial, when disciplined, protects man from receiving impressions that are not in harmony with his nature. He adopts an attitude of total indifference to all suggestions that are foreign to that which he desires to express. Disciplined denial is not a fight or a struggle, but total indifference. Matthew, the eighth, is the gift of God. This quality of mind reveals man's desires as gifts of God. The man who has called this disciple into being knows that every desire of his heart is a gift from heaven, and that it contains both the power and the plan of its self-expression. Such a man never questions the manner of its expression. He knows that the plan of expression is never revealed to man, for God's ways are past finding out. He fully accepts his desires as gifts already received and goes his way in peace, confident that they shall appear. The ninth disciple is called James, the son of Alphaeus. This is the quality of discernment. A clear and ordered mind is the voice which calls this disciple into being. This faculty perceives that which is not revealed to the eye of man. This disciple judges not from appearances, for it has the capacity to function in the realm of causes, and so is never misled by appearances. Clairvoyance is the faculty which is awakened when this quality is developed and disciplined, not the clairvoyance of the mediumistic seance rooms, but the true clairvoyance or clear seeing of the mystic. That is, this aspect of the mind has the capacity to interpret that which is seen. Discernment, or the capacity to diagnose, is the quality of James, the son of Alphaeus. Thaddeus, the 10th, is the disciple of praise, a quality in which the undisciplined man is woefully lacking. When this quality of praise and thanksgiving is awake within man, he walks with the words, "Thank you, Father," ever on his lips. He He knows that his thanks for things not seen opens the windows of heaven and permits gifts beyond his capacity to receive to be poured upon him. The man who is not thankful for things received is not likely to be the recipient of many gifts from the same source. Until this quality of the mind is disciplined, man will not see the desert blossom as the rose. Praise and thanksgiving are to the invisible gifts of God one's desires, what rain and sun are to the unseen seeds in the bosom of the earth. The 11th quality, called Simon of Canaan, a good key phrase for the disciple is hearing good news. Simon of Canaan, or Simon from the land of milk and honey, when called to discipleship, is proof that the one who calls this faculty into being has become conscious of the abundant life. He can say with the psalmist David, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over." This disciplined aspect of the mind is incapable of hearing anything other than the good news, and so is well qualified to preach the gospel or good spell. The 12th and last of the disciplined qualities of the mind is called Judas. When this quality is awake, man knows that he must die to that which he is before he can become that which he desires to be. So it is said of this disciple that he commits suicide, which is the mystic's way of telling the initiated that Judas, the disciplined aspect of detachment, this one knows that his I am, or consciousness, is his savior, so he lets all other saviors go. This quality, when disciplined, gives one the strength to let go. The man who has called Judas into being has learned how to take his attention away from problems or limitations and to place it upon that which is the solution or savior. Except ye be born again, you cannot in any way enter the kingdom of heaven. No greater love hath man than this, that he give his life for a friend. When man realizes that the quality desired, if realized, would save and befriend him, he willingly gives up his life, present conception of himself, for his friend, by detaching his consciousness from that which he is conscious of being and assuming the consciousness of that which he desires to be. Judas, the one whom the world in its ignorance has blackened, will, when man awakes from his undisciplined state, be placed on high, for God is love, and no greater love has a man than this, that he lay down his life for a friend. Until man lets go of that which he is, now conscious of being, he will not become that which he desires to be. And Judas is the one who accomplishes this through suicide or detachment. These are the 12 qualities which were given to man in the foundation of the world. Man's duty is to raise them to the level of discipleship. When this is accomplished, man will say, I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. I have glorified thee on earth, and now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had before thee, before the world was. At the end of these lectures, Neville would give 2 minutes of silence, which I'll do now, and we're going to discuss this in full because there's a lot to unpack here. Let us go into the silence. Now, if this sounds new to you, it sounds new to me. And I've read a lot of Neville and listened to a lot of Neville, and I found a couple of people that referred to this, but this is an absolutely unique lecture than we have seen before. And we really get a breakdown of the 12 disciples, something I always wanted to see Neville do. So he lists the disciples off: Simon, who is also Simon Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew, James, the son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas. So we have James and James the son of Alphaeus, and we have Simon and Simon the Canaanite, who have similar names. I've never been good at remembering all the 12 disciples. So the instruction, so we begin with the habit or way of thinking or quality of Simon Peter, and that is the attribute of hearing. And the way he describes it is your ability to hear what is good and to sort of ignore what is bad, to be aware of the flow of information that's coming in. Some of us become passive in what we hear, and we let it control our reality. And it's an awareness that what you access, and it goes beyond just hearing. It's an attribute of just awareness, so that you do not let what you see in your environment affect you, and you get rid of stuff that's negative. That is the quality of Simon. The filter is a way to look at it. Simon's the filter portion of your thinking that filters the information that comes into you. The instruction again to Simon is that he should permit only dignified and honorable visitors or impressions to enter the house of consciousness, to enter the house of you. When Simon by his works proves himself to be a true and faithful disciple, then he receives the surname of Peter, or the rock. So Peter comes later, the unmoved disciple, the one who cannot be bribed or coerced by any visitor. He is called by his Lord Simon Peter, the one who faithfully hears the command. So at the beginning, he starts to understand this filter process. And then later he becomes the rock, because he can't be moved. He can't be convinced of anything. Remember, these are disciples of the Christ. So you're on the path to the Christhood as Jesus is teaching it. And the quality of Simon is you at first being able to filter your environment and understanding it. The second quality is Andrew, or courage. And that is faith. That's the ability to say, I'm going to imagine this, and I'm going to believe in my heart that it's going to happen, that it's really going to be true. Faith in oneself, which asks no man any help, but quietly and alone appropriates the consciousness of the quality desired, in spite of reason or the evidence of your senses. So if what you see on the outside is not what you want to see, you have this deep inner faith in the feeling part of your heart body that says, I have courage in this moment. I am powerful in this moment. The faith of the undisciplined man cannot be called faith, as he explains, in its opposite. For if the armies and medicines or wisdom of man in which his faith is placed to be taken from him, his faith and courage go with it. It's the faith in God. From this disciplined view, the courage is Peter's brother Andrew, the disciple who knows what it is to dare and to do and to be silent. So the next two disciples, and notice that he mentions these disciples together as if they come in a pair. I think he does that on purpose when he just mentions certain disciples. And in this particular case, it's James and John, James the just, the righteous judge, and his brother, the beloved. So you're talking about a way of making judgments, and then on the other hand, with love, being able to judge the world around you with love, to see the love in what you see around you. In combination is why he mentioned that. This disciple, James, is a symbol of a disciplined judgment, not imagination, but your ability to judge what's going on from that higher divine perspective. And this reminds me of what we discussed with Paul Selig and his guides, where you are in this upper room of vibration and you see even the worst of things around you from this higher place, and you lift the vibration of it. That is, that you're able to judge and see the things around you in a higher Christ-like vibration. You see the love in all things. You see the beauty in all things. You see the good in all things. As he says, these two disciples or aspects are inseparable when awakened. Such a disciplined one forgives all men for being that which they are. So it's a state of forgiveness. He knows as a wise judge that every man perfectly expresses that which he is as man, conscious of being. He knows upon the changeless foundation of consciousness, all manifestation rests. That changes of expression can be brought about only through changes of consciousness. He knows in his heart when he judges others that he can change their consciousness with neither condemnation nor criticism. So you've forgiven someone. You don't judge them. You don't criticize them. These disciplined qualities of mind permit everyone to be that which he is. You see that all the people around you in states, as Neville Goddard regularly liked to say. So if somebody is doing something terrible with you, you understand that there's still a pure being within, in a state of anger or hatred or whatever it is. John the Beloved, he doesn't talk as much about, just saying it in combination with the righteous judgment. So you see God in all things. The fifth quality of discipleship is called Philip, and this is the one that asks to be shown the Father. Philip is the disciple that says, I want to see God. I want to see the Father. The awakened man knows that the Father is the state of consciousness in which man dwells, and that this state or Father can be seen only as it is expressed. This is that portion of you that persists until ideas or ambitions and desires become embodied realities. It's that portion of your mind that doesn't give up, that continues to look for the thing that you imagine, to see the Father, that wants to see it in the flesh. This is the quality that states, yet in my flesh shall I see God. That's that portion of you that doesn't just imagine, that doesn't just monitor and filter the things coming through, that doesn't just judge people in a loving manner, that doesn't judge them in a loving way, but even more takes it to the next level and sees that it changes in the world beyond just the consciousness. The sixth disciple is Bartholomew, and that is the imaginative faculty, the ability to imagine. And here we get some interesting discussion from Neville on how the greatest earners are people that imagine. The artists, the scientists, the people that use their imagination, stating that if you were to do a survey, you would find that those that follow their imagination are the ones that are the wealthiest. This is the place where one is so awakened above average men. And it's really an interesting point here. He says, the quality of the mind when once awake distinguishes one from the masses. Sometimes people ask me, well, everybody's creating and they might think bad thoughts about me, and that person over there is not as powerful. When you awaken, there's a point where you really start to create your reality. And he paints a beautiful picture here that you're like a lighthouse, a bright light. Once you are imagining properly, and everybody is kind of asleep in their imagination and just reacting to the world around them, letting the world and its impressions influence them, judging the world by the way that they're programmed, then their light is darkened. And it's that point where you become creative. Then you're above the masses. You have a greater power to distinguish realities and then control it. And he even makes a little comment about education, how all education is putting stuff into man, when it really should be about bringing people out. And I love that metaphor. It's a good way of describing it. The seventh discipleship is Thomas, and that's the doubter. And he makes some interesting comments here. The one that doubts the truth of the world, even if there's a plague sweeping the earth, you doubt it. It's that part of you that's able to doubt the person that says, this will never work, you'll never be able to do this, it doesn't work. It's that quality in you that doubts That's at least the way he describes it. I find that interesting as an discipleship, being able to doubt properly. So the 8th is Matthew, and that's the gift of God. This is the quality of mind that shows our desires. That's the things we want. That's things we strive for, the things in our heart that we would love to have or experience, our wish fulfilled, the love that we want, the money or abundance that we want to have. Those are the things that we crave, the desires and experiences that we want. You can't create your reality or change your reality if you don't have a desire to do so. Only the people that have a deep desire to change their reality are the ones that really do. The 9th disciple is James, the son of Alphaeus. We have a new James, the second James. This is the quality of discernment, similar also to the James before who was judgment. But this is the one that has wisdom, that has a clear and ordered mind, is the voice which calls this disciple into being. So you have a disciplined mind that is able to take in information properly. Clairvoyance is the faculty he mentions in relation to this. So when it's awakened, when this quality is developed and disciplined, not the clairvoyance of the mediumistic seance rooms, but the true clairvoyance or clear seeing of the mystic, that is, this aspect of the mind has the capacity to interpret that which is seen, an understanding of seeing the unseen world. Then we have Thaddeus, who is the 10th and is the disciple of praise, a quality in which the undisciplined man is woefully lacking. Thank you. It's the part of you that is grateful. It's the portion of you that is grateful for what you want, that is excited in appreciation for what you want. If you are not thankful for the thing that you want, it is likely that you will never get it. And it's related to the desire. It's that intense emotion like desire, but it's that thankful gratitude. You'll never be able to reach the Christ state unless you're in this state of absolute gratitude all the time. That is where the Christ state starts to form, in my opinion. And then the 11th quality is Simon of Canaan. That's interesting because he explains that Canaan also means the land of milk and honey. It's sort of that positivity that I see the good in the world. That's positive. He sees the abundant life is the way he described it. Now, the most interesting is the 12th disciple. If you get a chance, check out the Frank Carter lectures. You can listen to these lectures from Giving Voice to the Wisdom of Ages. You can actually listen to Frank Carter give the lecture itself. That's what I would recommend. Just look up Neville Goddard Frank Carter lecture. This is a man that was a driver of Neville Goddard and claimed to have a dream where he is Judas. And then Neville describes in another lecture the same thing, that he is Judas, the betrayer, the revealer of the messianic secrets. But in this particular aspect, Judas is a part of the mind that lets go of the past, as Neville has established, particularly in his lecture, The Art of Dying. What he's saying is you're dying to the old reality. You let it go. It's the part of you that lets go of what happened in the past. It's the one that completely lets go. That's the aspect of mind that you have, where you may have been in poverty before, but you want to be wealthy. You let go of that poverty feeling and that poverty mindset. It's the art of dying, and it's the art of Judas as he describes it, at least by that quality of mind. Now, I've heard many other interpretations of the 12 disciples, in particular Joseph Murphy's book, which we also have on the channel, and it has a very different interpretation of each of these disciples. This is filtered through Neville's ideas and understandings of biblical teachings, and I find it fascinating. Have you accessed these qualities of mind, these potentials of your mind? They are there for you, and if you access them together, you can create anything, and you can have Christ-like power to heal the people around you and change the world. It's just with these disciplines of mind, and it's all laid out here like a blueprint. I'd love to get your comments and any additional interpretations of the disciples. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.